Hi, everyone. I am Nashley Harrigan. I am an emergency medicine physician or ER physician in New York by trade and a very proud member of the Haitian Ladies Network. HLN is the largest global platform connecting more than 100,000 women and girls of Haitian descent. We're based in Washington, D.C. We're a professional and social network led by a 10-member board. Our year-round programming is built around 5 pillars: financial well-being, wellness and healing, culture and heritage, bridging Haiti and its diaspora, and voices and influence, all focused on empowering Haitian women across generations. We also host our signature Haitian Ladies Weekend every October, which brings hundreds of women to DC each year for inspiration, connection, and a celebration of our culture. Last year, I think we had over 800 participants. Tonight, we are very excited to dive into navigating our career shifts. This is a very important conversation because so many in our community are exploring new opportunities, whether by choice or by force. They're transitioning and seeking clarity in a rapidly changing job market. We wanted to create a space where women can get practical guidance and steps, hear real stories, and feel supported as they take bold steps towards their new chapter. It is my pleasure to introduce our moderator today, Karen Andre. Ms. Andre is a government relations consultant and political strategist. She previously served in the White House under both the Biden and the Obama administration as special assistant to the President for Economic Agency Personnel and White House liaison at the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. An attorney by training, Karen has also practiced immigration law in Miami and is the founder of People's First Solutions, where she has advanced initiatives in governance, women's issues, and social justice. She's a sought-after strategist, speaker, and commentator, and a friend. And we are thrilled to have Ms. Andre guide our conversation today.
Thank you, Nashley. Good evening, everyone. Happy holidays and welcome. I hope that we have ladies and gents in the room this evening. All are welcome. And I'm really excited about this conversation. So without further ado, because we have such an illustrious panel and so much ground to cover, I'm going to dive right into going through the bios of our speakers, our panelists, and then we're going to go straight into questions to maximize this hour. First on my screen is Ms. Denielle M. Pemberton, Esquire. She is a distinguished legal executive and global business leader, serving as Global Managing Director and Chief Legal Officer at Diversified Search Group, where she leads executive searches and commercial transactions across multiple sectors. She previously spent 15 years as group counsel at PBS, the Public Broadcasting System, and serves on several boards, including Lockchain and the Greater Washington Community Foundation. Ms. Pemberton is also has been recognized by Diversity Women's Magazine's Elite 100 and the Association of Executive Search Consultants for Advancing Equitable Practices. Believe me, it's only for the sake of time that I am truncating her very long and illustrious and impressive resume. She has also earned a degree in political science from Tufts University, her MBA from Columbia, and her Juris Doctorate from Case Western Reserve. Welcome, Ms. Pemberton Hurd. Thank you for joining us this evening. Next is Ms. Thiola DeBose, who is a career coach and founder of J Skills, and also an award-winning journalist who has guided hundreds of professionals through career transitions across journalism, science, technology, fashion, and retail. She's a former Washington Post foreign correspondent and communications director, also in the Obama administration with me. She uses storytelling to help professionals identify and leverage their transferable skills. She's a graduate of Princeton University and the University of California, Berkeley. Welcome, Thiola. And last but certainly not least is Ms. Tamar E. Harrigan, Esquire. Tamar is an international trade and regulatory attorney and former chief of staff at the U.S. Trade and Development Agency during the Biden administration. She has also served as senior advisor for intergovernmental affairs at HUD during the Obama administration, where she helped shape policy and partnership, agency policy and partnerships. I should have had that cremas after all. A first-generation Haitian American, Tamar holds a JD from St. Thomas University and an LLM in international business law from the National University of Singapore. So clearly we have some real women brainiacs here, and an illustrious conversation based on all their diverse backgrounds and skills. So without further ado, I'm going to jump into a conversation with Denielle. Denielle, from your vantage point as an executive and talent leader, what are the biggest mistakes you see professionals make when trying to pivot into a new role or industry? Given the times that we're in, I think that's an important question to share.
I would start off by saying a lot of people really haven't taken a full inventory of what their competencies are. People oftentimes focus on what their titles were or how they've progressed through their current situation, but they don't really take a look at their core competencies, sort of their if you were to break it down into sort of a skills matrix, what your real skills and talents are and how they're transferable. And I think this is especially important for those perhaps transitioning out of the public sector and trying to transition into industry because the language is different, the titling is different. So you really have to sit back and peel back the layers and understand what are the competencies, where have I had impact, how and when do I lead, and when have I been successful? And that's probably the biggest mistake people have because they keep applying based on what they've done in the past and they haven't transferred those skills to really communicate to a potential hiring company how they can really plug and play today.
Got it. Core competencies is an important term that I want us to flesh out a little bit later. I think we use it often in the DC sphere, but we have a wide range of attendees tonight. So I want to dig into that a little bit later. I'll come back to you, but thank you for that. And I like that you mentioned the pivot from public sector to private sector or government, right? To private or industry. And I'll actually ask the next question in that same realm towards, I'll direct that towards Tamar. Tamar, for someone who is currently moving or has moved from government or public service into the private sector, what are the first three things one should do to prepare before they even start applying for such a pivot?
Thank you. Thank you for the wonderful introductions. And thank you, of course, to the Haitian Ladies for putting this panel together. It's so timely with so many people, especially here living in DC. You can't throw a rock without running into someone who's been either let go or affected by the number of people that have found themselves in transition. So this is a very timely and important conversation. I look at job hunting. I love puzzles. So I look at it as a puzzle to solve. And I would say the first three things would be assess where you are and if that's still where you want to be, right? So you were in a job, whether you were in government transitioning to now private sector, industry, nonprofit, whatever it is. Do you want to stay in that space? Did you want to go and do something else? You were in HR, maybe you want to try accounting, finance, something else that has piqued your interest. So making that assessment, I think, is probably the first step. And in doing that, I think you need to take the time to truly understand where that space is. So it might have been something you were interested in 10 years ago when you made the pivot to HR. Now you're looking to switch and, things have changed, evolved, language has changed, qualifications have changed. So making a real assessment of this new area space that you want to be in. And then refresh your story. So refresh your bio, refresh your resume, refresh all of your application type of documents, understanding that There are nuances per industry, and even within industry, within subsectors, how you talk about the skills that you have. Refresh your social media pages. I like to say create a bubble, put yourself in a position where the things that you're seeing reinforce where you want to be. So making sure you're increasing your contacts in this new space, making sure people know that you're looking, making sure that the things that you're thinking about reading are all within the same bubble so that you're completely enveloped in a bubble of information in the space of where you want to go. And then lastly, I would say tap into your network. So thinking about the people that you know that are doing the thing you want to be doing or in that space already. If it's in the same space, reaching out to those people. And then pro tip, making sure that your relationships are strong and not transactional, which we often find that people are only reaching out like, hey, I'm looking for a job, but trying to rebuild those relationships so that people remember you. They remember that you're looking. You're probably the 50th person this month that may have reached out. How do you stand out from all the 49 other people that are tapping into them looking for new jobs? So I would say those three things.
Okay, great. And you make a really good point about assessing the intended industry you want to pivot into in real time today, right? Because 10 years ago, AI wasn't as big of a phenomenon as it is today. And now you can't, assess any industry and not think about the impact or the influence of AI. So that's a very good point. I'm going to pivot over to Theola now, who has actually served as a career coach. So Theola, what is the first thing someone should do when they feel stuck or unsure of what they're good at? Because Denielle mentioned examining your core competencies and assessing what your skills are. But what if you really are fuzzy on it? She mentioned a couple of ways she mentioned a skills matrix, but what did you do as a coach to help people figure out what they're good at?
Thank you, Karen, and thank you to Haitian Ladies Network for, yes, having this conversation. As a founding board member, I'm just so proud of how the organization continues to grow and be so relevant to people. So I heard Denielle and Tamara make some really great points, and I will just deepen those. I see three kinds of people, essentially, when I encounter them as a career coach. So there are people deciding whether they want to transition or not, right? Because there's a choice there in terms of, do I actually want to now pull the trigger on something, right? Versus thinking about it. So there's that decision or choice phase that I say. And then there's that phase that Denielle was talking about in terms of being aware of yourself as an asset. What do I bring? What skills do I have? And then what Tamar was saying, now that I know how much of a package I am, where do I want to take that package? It's like, where do I want to go? You have to know that you want to pivot. You have to know what you're capable of, and you have to know where you want to go. And I say it that way when I talk to people because you have the responsibility of knowing. When I wanted to leave journalism, I just kept saying to everybody, I don't know what I want to do. And one day someone very close to me said, well, if you don't know, who knows? And I was like, okay. So just this idea that I am responsible. So I want everyone to take on that responsibility, not with dread, but with some joy and power, because you do know yourself best. And so how do you do it? Tamara talked about she sees it as a puzzle. I do have a kind of framework similar to Tamar, but then for me, I see it as a story in terms of what is the best story that I can tell about my skills. And brass tacks, one way that you can do that very specifically is if you can just write down all the things that you do in a day, right? From the minute you show up to work, just write down very simple sentence, sent this email to Bob, waited 4 times for this, right? Just write that down. And maybe if one day doesn't seem interesting, maybe try 2 days or 3 days. And when you look back, you are going to see some interesting things or patterns, and you have to get very confident about it. For example, you might say, well, it's just really normal that I get 400 emails a day and I just sift through them. No, that's actually a skill. You have judgment. You're able to figure out what's really important and what's not out of 400 emails. That's a skill, you know? Or let's say that you're just a receptionist, quote unquote. You're not just a receptionist. You're managing culture in the office and personalities. And, you are the one who is really, steering things and making sure that people feel known and kind of celebrated. And so you have to get very I don't know what the word is, but I see it as a puzzle in terms of what is the best story that you can tell, because nobody is just fill in the blank. You're not just your title. You're not just someone who does this. You have to make it sound like, I say this to the people I coach, like a movie trailer, right? The worst movie, you would never know that the worst movie was the worst movie from the trailer typically, because they make that thing seem hot. Like, oh my gosh, like, oh yeah. And you see, like, oh, that was kind of garbage, but the trailer was dope, right? And so you have to think of like, what is your trailer? And that's how you have to show up. Because I think, Karen, you said, what is the difference between you or Tamar and then all the 10 other people who then ask for something? It's like the story that you tell, and like how good you make yourself sound.
I often tell me what you all think of this. I often ask people if the place you want to go into, let's say the CEO, then there's the operations person, right? That's making sure all the levers. There's the finance people. There's the people who promote on the outside. I ask people to think about, where do you want to be? Do you want to be in the background, making sure all the things move efficiently? Do you want to be out front, being the person that's the face of the organization? Is that something that you all think people should think about? Is that a helpful matrix to embrace? Denielle?
Yeah, I think it's definitely helpful to begin to know yourself. I mean, I think that's part of the journey, right? Of understanding who you are, where you shine. And that's why sometimes taking an assessment of where you've really had impact, where you've really gotten positive feedback, that lets you know, okay, well, there usually is a pattern. And the goal is for you to be self-aware enough to begin to realize that so that you position yourself for success.
I
So,
like that, wherever you've gotten good feedback as well. We all do annual reviews or sit with our bosses. That's very helpful. While I still have you, and thank you, Theola, I'm going to continue with Denielle. Um, you're actually in the sphere right now of helping, with talent management and acquisition in amongst the many things that you do. So what practical steps should someone take to make themselves more marketable in this current environment, especially if they feel their experience doesn't perfectly align with the job that they aspire to or want to do to go into next?
great. Well, thank you. The points that have been made have been fantastic. Really, I guess there are two things. One, because I think so many people have misunderstandings about what executive search and what headhunting is. So I just want to sort of lay the groundwork there because I think that will really help people understand how they're supposed to interact with headhunters and recruiters. So, executive recruiters are basically retained and paid by companies, organizations, nonprofits, hospitals, whatever the case may be, to find talent. Typically, it's executive talent because the fees are typically 1/3 of the anticipated compensation for the hire. Right. So it's an expensive endeavor. So when a company invests in hiring an executive search professional to lead a search, it really is something that's above and beyond what their typical talent, in-house talent people are prepared to do or desire to do because they're probably stretched. With that said, people oftentimes think that when they're reaching out to executive search firms, the firm is working for them or that they can hire an executive search firm. And that's not really the way it works. But what all executive search firms have is they have talent portals where you can submit your resume or your CV so that you are logged into their system, and then their research team, as roles come up that align with your skill sets, they will then perhaps pull your resume and introduce you into a search. So it's really important if you're thinking about applying at that level or through that type of avenue, that you begin to do some research on the various executive search firms, understand sort of where they play in the space. Some focus entirely on, banking or finance roles. Others focus on consumer products, consumer products. Others focus on industrials. So they're all a little bit different. Generally, the top 10 firms have the broadest breadth of services and bandwidth in terms of the types of clients we service. So our firm, DSG Global, is a full service firm. So we do everything from healthcare to higher ed to corporate network, the whole thing. So that's one thing. The other part sort of follows up on what both Tamar and Theola were saying, is getting your resume together, getting your LinkedIn profile together so that it reads and it captures the attention of individuals who may be recruiters that are looking for people with your skill set. So you really need to fine tune it. You'll be amazed. So many people think just having a LinkedIn profile is enough. And it really is a calling card, because the dirty little secret in executive search is most of the work is done by the research to identify potential talent is done by early and mid-career professionals, which means that they are not always as sophisticated as you would believe to understand nuance, which means that your resume and your LinkedIn profile really needs to state what your competencies are, what your skills are, what your accomplishments are, and what type of role you're seeking to land next. So it's really important, because from there, the research team bubbles that information up to managing directors such as myself, and then we screen and begin the conversations. But if your LinkedIn profile or your resume falls short, you'll never even make the cut or be identified. So that's really important.
Okay, very helpful. That was a great breakdown of how the executive search firm world works. We hear the term headhunters. Again, terms are thrown around, but that was a very helpful and informative way of explaining to us where the equities lie and how to make sure that they avail themselves, if possible, through the portals. So if I've heard you correctly, in terms of making yourself more marketable for jobs where you don't perfectly align, you really have to pay attention to the language that you're putting out there on your resume, your CV, and on your public LinkedIn profile, to make sure that it as closely as possible aligns with a job that you feel is a bit of a stretch job. Is that fair?
Yes, I would say that's true. Certainly, if there are individuals that can vouch for you or are able to support you, endorse you on LinkedIn, for example, in that specific skill set, not random, just, you're not your mother, but, someone that really can speak to your professional qualifications in such a way that makes you a natural fit, then that is helpful. I always encourage people to continue to look and monitor and cultivate relationships within some of the volunteer organizations or trade associations that may work in that specific space. Right now, many of those organizations have weekly lunch and learns, things that allow you to kind of pop in, dial in without necessarily being a paying member, to sort of ear hustle and understand what's happening in that industry. It just makes you that more knowledgeable and able to, you have the agility to have a conversation about what's happening in that sector.
Absolutely. Those are some great pro tips. You want to be in as many rooms where it happens as possible, ear hustling or networking. Thank you for that, Denielle. I'm going to go back over to Tamar, since we're talking about networking. It's often different in the government sphere versus the corporate spaces or the private industry spaces. So tell us some practical ways to build new connections quickly and effectively when you're making that shift. And to your point, without it being too transactional, me, give me. That's a fine balancing act to make. So what would you say there, Tamar?
So going back to my puzzle analogy, I look at, for example, job hunting as a puzzle. I look at job descriptions as a puzzle. What are they solving for? And as I think about looking to build my network, looking to find a new role, looking to transition from one sector to another or one role to another, all of those, I think, if you approach it from a puzzle problem to be solved space, it helps you think about it with actionable steps. So I tell everybody who will listen, any and everybody who will listen, that LinkedIn is the short circuit, right? Like, so in Haiti, it's like, oh, you have to have a parent, a godfather, somebody to like work you into certain positions to land. And we all know that, right? So many of us are of Haitian descent, Haitian. So we understand that, merit alone isn't going to get you there. Well, the reality is, and, the worst kept secret is that that's the case all over the place, right? Relationships really get you there. And LinkedIn is a short circuit to great relationships. So a number of the speakers on the panel today, have mentioned your LinkedIn page, making sure you're telling your story. But I also think LinkedIn groups. So being active on those LinkedIn groups, most people's LinkedIn sends an email to their private email. So when, they could do it as a digest, they could do it whatever, but they're getting a private email from active members of these groups. So depending on how your notifications are set up. So if you, as I mentioned earlier, if you're creating a bubble, you're on the right groups for this new sector you want to be in. I'm just going to go along with that analogy, right? And then you're active in the groups, sharing information, not just active to be active, like, hey guys, what's going on? I don't think that will help you. But as new information is coming out, as updates, new laws, or something that may indirectly impact the industry, AI is changing this big thing, a journal article or whatever, sharing that within a group in LinkedIn now puts your name in the private mailbox of someone in the space you want to be in, right? And reaching out to people with thoughtful conversation, right? So, hey, Karen, I saw that you posted in the government affairs group about this new project you're working on. I'd love to learn more. Are you available for coffee? Right? Like, so I'm not coming to you, hey, I'm looking to transition, but I'm interested in what you're talking about. And the only reason I know is that I've created this whole bubble around me so that the things that are on my feed are relevant to what I want to be doing. So making sure that it's almost overwhelming because it's all within this bubble, right? And the other thing is thinking about the organization. So Denielle mentioned ear hustling, but I think that, find one or two organizations, become a member, get on the board. Those are the people that are looking for speakers, that are putting together events, and that elevates you beyond the membership. So if it's a organization of 1,000 people, and yeah, you're in the room, the pressure is higher for you to take advantage of these events and, walk out with a business card or a few business cards of people that you're going to follow up with. But if you join these relevant organizations, you get on the board, maybe on the program committee, maybe on some other, volunteer opportunity on the board, and you're now helping to curate the activities that they're putting together. You have increased your relationship to practitioners in the space that you want to be. So using Haitian Ladies Network, I want to become a Haitian Lady Network person, get on the board, volunteer, do the work. And now through this relationship, I'm building real relationships with people that I can then follow up with for coffee, for advice, for counsel, and be less transactional, and also share information that I'm hearing about because I've created this bubble completely around me on all of my social media, on my LinkedIn, on the organizations that I'm following, the events that I'm going to. They're all within the same framework so that I'm increasing my network to be useful to, for the goal that I have set in mind. And as I mentioned before, you want depth and not transaction. You want to really, really build relationship that will continue to help you grow, but also help you grow as a practitioner in this new space or in this new role and things like that. And, the transactional relationships, they're over as soon as the transaction's over, if you get that far.
Right. I hope folks are taking notes. Very good advice, ladies. I'm going to pivot.
I was just going to echo what Tamar said because that comes full circle. When you get on these programs and you're active in certain LinkedIn groups, when recruiters are looking for leaders, thought leaders in industry, that's exactly where they look. So your name is more likely to surface that way because you'll be standing out. And you may get called to be a source for something, but even if you get called to be a source for something that you have no interest in, take the call, develop that relationship, and be thoughtful about giving a really solid referral. The referral does not have to be perfect, but offer a referral. And this is the opportunity for people to keep each other in mind, to make sure that you're referring people that you know are looking. Don't just brush off these calls. This is the way this happens.
All about those relationships. Excellent, excellent advice. Theola, I was going to come over to you and talk a little bit about rebranding, since that's what you specialized in. When many people are considering rebranding, pivoting, we talked about that earlier. When someone's looking to rebrand their career, as a coach, what concrete steps have you advised them to take to reshape their narrative? And how can social media help amplify that rebrand or their new story?
Thank you for that question, Karen. I think that it's really important, again, just a reminder for folks to fully take on the responsibility of telling their own story. You are the only one who can tell your story. And so once you really step into that with some power and not some drag, then you say, okay, well, then what story is it that I'm going to tell? One exercise that I have folks do who I work with is that I call it the ordering a pizza exercise. And we all do this, where sometimes when you're frustrated by something or you feel very stuck or work just feels like a dead end, then you're really good about complaining about all the things that aren't working with the job, right? Oh, my boss this, or oh, this is so stressful. But when you walk into a pizza shop and you want to order a pizza, you don't say, I don't want anchovies, I don't want green peppers, and I don't want ham. So you got my order? And he's like, no, I don't know what you want because you haven't said what you want. You haven't said, oh, I'd like a pizza with pepperoni and cheese and onion, right? And so one of the concrete things that people can do is start to talk about their pivot in terms of where they're going and what they want to do. So it's not, I don't know, I don't know. It's, hey, I've been doing this. I think that I've outgrown that. I'm looking to go in a new direction. I'm now exploring some things. This is how you have to talk to yourself so that when you bump into somebody, it's the holiday season. We all might be hitting the circuit. When you bump into somebody at the holiday party, or, you don't say, oh, I don't know, I'm not sure. You're like, you know what? I've been doing HR for a long time. I've picked up some really good skills, but now I'm looking to stretch in a different direction. So I would say that the most concrete thing you can do is start to change how you talk to yourself about your pivot, because then that's the first practice for how you need to talk to somebody else. Because I can tell you, I've been a career coach, I've been a hiring manager. I can tell in about 15 seconds if the person I'm talking to knows how to explain themselves and then has sat with themselves and then has some, has some conclusions and reflections. You know, it's such a time where everyone is going through all these different things. When you get that opportunity, you want to make the most of it by having a very coherent, tight story and not be rambling.
So you can tell when someone's just going by the seat of their pants and just winging it. And so you're the most concrete step, if I can take away what I just heard you say, is make sure that you're grounded in what exactly it is you want, that you can articulate it clearly and with confidence to others, so that you're not, again, leading with what you don't want. You're citing what you do want and what you can do with emphasis. That's the most initial concrete step, it sounds like, you would offer for rebranding, correct?
Yeah. And I mean, you can start with yourself. You literally can sit with yourself, turn on the recorder on your phone, and just say, okay, this is what I want to do. And then play it back and see how you sound. You're like, well, I don't even sound convincing to myself. So if you don't sound convincing to yourself, you're not going to sound convincing to someone else. And so you want to first find the safe spaces where you can try out that conversation so that when you need to tell it to someone in a way where you're trying to convince them, you can just say it with confidence. And so, all of us go through learning on this journey. It's just that you want to practice in the practice space, and then when it's time to be in the arena, then you're ready.
But part two of the question was also, how can social media help amplify that person's new story or that rebrand? Any thoughts there?
I think what's interesting, one of the one of my favorite kinds of posts on social media is come get ready with me. Right? Like no matter who it is, at first we thought it was cool because it was a celebrity, but now just normal people. None of us can just not watch those because it's fun. You feel like you're behind the scenes, you feel like you're getting a little insight. And when you think back to what I was saying earlier about all the things that you do in a day, those are all little nuggets that are interesting to people who just may not know what it takes to put together a PowerPoint or to throw the holiday party. And so social media can help if you can break out these little nuggets that then show off your expertise. I know how to organize something because I did this. Because when you hear about a certain career or a title, it doesn't give you that flavor of, come with me, let me show you what I do. And so that's how social media can get people in because what Denielle was saying is so true in terms of people look at these breadcrumbs and they make decisions or at least impressions about who you are. And if they're going to do that, you have an opportunity. It's not mandatory. You just have an opportunity to actually shape the story before somebody even actually contacts you IRL in real life.
Real life. Okay,
Aaron, I
great.
wanted to tag on to that really quickly. Sorry.
Sure.
So I think it's for a lot of people, the transition is almost shameful, right? Like there's a shame, there's a discomfort in putting yourself out there and being vulnerable. I'm unemployed and looking, or I'm unhappy and looking, whatever the story is, there's some type of negative past over this process. And I strongly encourage folks to work through that feeling so that they can own the story in the way that Theola's talking about and being able to tell the story. You shouldn't be ashamed to say, I'm looking for something new, and finding the right way that feels comfortable to you to say that helps you to tell the story confidently. The other thing I wanted to add, kind of combining some of the things that both Denielle and Theola said, is that you want to get to a very succinct story of what you want to be doing next or what you're looking for. It doesn't have to be next, right? Even if it's in the same industry, you're just looking for a new job. You want to be very quick, succinct elevator pitch. I love the pizza order idea. You want your exact order, not just so that you sound confident, but so that the other person could take it forward, right? So I might not know anything, but if I know your exact order, pepperoni, cheese, and onions, I can share that with someone else. And I can also recognize it when it's coming across my desk. Other people are sending, hey, I'm looking for a new person that's, pepperoni, onions, and cheese. Let me know if you know of any candidates. And I can now remember I've seen that somewhere before and be able to make that connection for you because I know your exact order, right? Using Theola's analogy. And as you're meeting people and networking and talking to folks, someone said to me, you may not find what you're looking for, but walk away with something, right? We all seen that the meme, right? I came from around the way, I'm leaving here with something. Leave with something. Like, hey, I don't have a job that fits what you're looking for, but maybe I know someone, right? So asking that person is, I know that this didn't make sense, or you're not currently looking or hiring or whatever, but do you know someone else I can talk to? Or is there someone else in your industry or in your company that is a better fit conversationally for what I'm looking to get, right? Or maybe in your network that I don't already know that I might be able to connect with or see if they're willing to do that. So see if you can walk away with something. It might not be the golden ticket of what you're looking for, but it may move you one step closer to where you want to be.
I think that's pretty sound. And I would add maybe even saying, I'm open to any suggestions, right? Any best advice, best practices you'd like to share. I think it gives people an opportunity to share their institutional wisdom or knowledge. So I think that's all really helpful. Denielle, did you want to jump in?
The only other thing I would add is, now is a time when people may have to be a bit more flexible about geography.
Ah,
I think a lot of people in the DC area, we've all been very fortunate to not have to face relocation as an option. But I think for a lot of the growing sectors, for a lot of people that are really in areas and have compensation needs and family demands that require a certain income level, you're really going to have to consider moving, telecommuting, all types of variations on the theme. I continue to be shocked to speak to people that have been, out of work for 6+ months, and I say, well, would you consider this in another city? And they're like, no, I can't move. I won't move. And I'm like, okay. It's tough. Right now, it's a difficult time for you not to be willing to perhaps make a sacrifice to do something.
that's very good, but very good point. So while I have you, Denielle, I'm going to kind of merge two questions. I want to gear this question to help the younger professionals. So given the way our current labor market is shifting, what skills or habits would you advise young professionals to start building now to stay competitive long term? And is there a particular industry or industries you would advise folks to focus on?
Well, I did some quick research just based on AESC is the Association of Executive Search Consultants. So that sort of we track what's going on across the industry. I'm on the board, and we track what's going on, what the growth sectors are. So not surprisingly, AI, cybersecurity, and technology are key in terms of skills, right? So I encourage any young person, whether they have, a high school diploma, a college degree, if they're weighing graduate school, whatever the case may be, even if they choose not to pursue graduate school at this moment in time, there are so many free certification classes that you can take to get at least working knowledge of some of these AI tools and these tech tools and the CRM programs and things of that nature that really position you to work with Salesforce and other tools. So that's first and foremost. There are also a number of certifications that you can get that aren't necessarily the cost of graduate school, but are very, very valuable and honestly are well received by employers. Sometimes even more so than graduate degrees that are a bit amorphous, right? So I think that's the first thing that I would do. Um, the other thing I would do is again, probably um, just like any mid-level or senior level person, find one or two organizations where they can join. Oftentimes, organizations have junior memberships that allow you to come in at a very reduced rate. You can also, for example, you should track conferences. We're fortunate here in the DC area. There are always conferences coming into town, and oftentimes entities like Cvent and others are looking for talented young people to come work the registration desk, come help do whatever at the convention center or the conference site or hotel. And that's a great way to network, to be able to sit in on workshops and conference events as a volunteer. So those are the types of things that I would encourage young people to do. Um, Reach out to organizations. I know ELC, for example, Executive Leadership Council, they have a young scholars program where they actually welcome young scholars and they put them through the paces and they give them training and career prep and resume writing workshops. So that's one of the organizations to look to. I believe the Conference Board does the same, and there, I'm sure others in the area.
Now, you mentioned some certifications. Were there any particular organizations or institutions that you thought folks should, I know sometimes I see online, Google has a certification class. I don't know if that's.
Google, yes, yep. Google has them for free. Salesforce
Okay.
offers them, and pretty much most entities are running some type of CRM.
Okay.
I
Just spell that out.
CRM, so that's was it customer
Resource.
management system, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Database.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other sector where there's tremendous growth is healthcare and
Okay.
life sciences.
Mhm.
Again, if you're looking for career growth as a young professional or need to pivot, um, uh, uh, many of the junior colleges, like Anne Arundel Community College, Howard County Community College, Montgomery College, for example, all have um, courses that are pretty moderately priced that allow you to get certifications working in labs, working in hospital administration, billing, things of that nature that really can set you up. They're growing tremendously. That area is growing tremendously. And for professionals, more senior level people, healthcare, management, operations, all of that is really a growth sector for us.
I'm glad you said that because the chat's starting to blow up. And since our last question was on the younger professionals, there's a response to whether about those of us who are 40 plus. The specific question is, thank you for this informative webinar. How can we overcome ageism for those of us who are 40 plus? And I think there was another question in that vein. This is a great point. Willingness to move is important, especially when work is scarce in your area. Can we also talk about seasoned professionals that are facing this need for pivot? So it's kind of like both questions about those of us who are, past our early years.
Some basic tip that I give to people if you're trying to avoid, any um, age bias and such. Generally, the general rule is um, your resume should generally reflect your last 10 to 12 years of work, right? And then you can have a section that has other relevant experience, but you don't have to date those. So you don't have to go back to 1978 when you were doing X, Y, and Z, right? So that kind of helps keep you current. but still captures your competencies and things of that nature. And you don't necessarily have to put on your initial resume your years of college graduation and such. And generally, most people you'll notice don't do that on their LinkedIn either, right? They just have what schools they were affiliated with. So
So
that,
that's not a giveaway to anyone that, oh, maybe this person is more seasoned if they leave off those dates. It's more
I
and
mean,
more.
they may know that you're more seasoned, but they're not going to pinpoint your date.
Got
And you'll show up the way you show up.
Right.
And sometimes having someone that is uh, mature, um, sophisticated in their approach to things is a plus. Sometimes that is real plus. Um,
Mhm.
So I think really it's about the energy that individuals bring to roles and their capacity to learn, grow, and take on new technology. I think that's really where the rubber hits the road.
Yeah, somebody asked, how do you combat ageism? So you would say learning some of the newer technologies to stay current as things
Absolutely.
change.
Yes, absolutely.
Mhm. Okay, great points. Let's see what else we have now in the questions. And this is for anyone. What do you see as the role of AI in all of this, I guess, in the workplace? And what are the risks and benefits to using it for job search? It's a great question. Anybody?
I'll take that. I love AI. Mostly because I clap back at it. It gives an answer and I'm like, I don't like this answer. Do it again. Or I'll say, go deeper. I'll be like, this is too general. Make it specific. So I think you have to like with all this, you have to make it work for you. But I think what you can do is think about it. First of all, use it because just like Danielle was saying, you want to be able to know that you have touched the new technology. So when someone is like, are you familiar with AI? You're like, yes, of course I am, because you're like, I've been using it for like cooking recipes. So yes, I'm familiar, right? But I think a way that you can use it in the job search is just think about it as I was talking earlier about a safe space. And so let's say, okay, I'm not sure what I want to do. And, ask AI, ask AI how to combat ageism. And when it gives one answer, keep going because for me, I like AI's 10th, 12th answer, not the first answer, right? And I think what you can also use it for is for some of that skills breakdown that we were saying. So if you keep track of your day, say, hey, AI, I did these things today. I have this title. What types of ways can my skills transfer? And then see what it says. And so I think it's a way to have a safe space to kind of explore some of these questions.
Danielle, is there anything you'd like to add especially about using it for your job search?
Yeah, I think that it's definitely very, very helpful, even for interviewing. You know, typical Chat GPT as well as Claude. I know candidates that have really been able to quiz themselves and kind of create a dialogue with themselves in anticipation of a job interview and keep current on perhaps challenges that may be facing the organization may be facing or someone in their particular role will face in the next year to 2 years. So I think people should embrace it and really use it as a tool to kind of strengthen their candidacy and their ability to interview and navigate things.
So I hear both of you advising it to be used for preparation. What about in the actual job search, searching for particular jobs? So you think it's a reliable tool? Obviously, it's not full fail proof. So thoughts on that?
I mean, I think that sort of picking up on Tamar's puzzle analogy, it's garbage in, it's garbage out, right? So it's really if you are really strategic and you say, um, please list for me the 5 companies in Northern Virginia that are experiencing the most largest growth in X sector, then AI will give you that answer. And then you can continue, as Viola said, you go back. Well, in this sector, give me more, give me more, give me more. And you really push it to get your information. Well, then you don't have to look through the 95 companies in Northern Virginia. You can spend your day researching 5 good companies and the 5 chief marketing officers at those 5 companies, and then send cover letters to those 5 people as opposed to just scattershot resume distribution. So I think that's the way people should be using it. And then I often say to people, don't overdo it with cover letters. People scan the letters 30 seconds. So I do not want people spending 2 and 3 hours on what they think is the perfect cover letter, like something short, pithy, cut, paste, do what you have to do and get your resume and your information out the door. And you're better off using your extra time to do this type of research or to take a free Google course and refine your skills so that you have additional certifications. It's a better use of your time.
Very, very good. Excellent points
I
there. I
would
think
add one thing. Sorry, Karen.
let me just make an announcement tomorrow. I know we're getting close to the end of the time. We're going to extend if folks would like to stay on so that we can get some of the very good questions dropped in the chat answered. So yes, please tomorrow, please add on before we go to the next question.
Yeah, I would just say also thinking about using AI to help you with networking. So, the contact accepted your LinkedIn request. Don't just leave it there. You can ask AI, hey, I just reached out to Theola DeBose. This is her profile. How do I start a conversation as opposed to just thank you for connecting, right? Like, how do I take that acceptance one step further and kind of go back and forth with AI, as Theola described, as Denielle described, so that you can utilize AI to help you build depth in that connection.
Very good. Thank you. So we have 2 questions that focus on DEI. The first one says, in the current environment, do you have advice about how to frame past experience related to DEI? I guess from your resume. And then another one, the questions are streaming in, says there's been a lot of discussion lately about whether candidates should avoid stating their race or gender on applications because of concerns around ATS-driven discrimination. I've seen companies asking questions about religion or sexual orientation, which raises some serious red flags. How do you think people should navigate this environment? The landscape feels increasingly complicated. Over 700 or 300,000 women of color are currently out of work. Yada, yada, yada. I'm just trying to truncate. So these 2 DEI specific or related questions are out there. Anybody like to take that on?
I mean, I think I'll start with the DEI question. I think in part because, I do work for the firm that was is now DSG Global, but was previously Diversified Search Group. Not the name change had nothing to do with the current administration. It was more a function of us rolling up a number of companies we acquired. But the point is, we faced the question, given the current climate. I think that individuals and professionals that have been working in DEI are people who are people leaders, who are culture leaders, there are so many ways to describe the invaluable contributions that individuals have made to cultivate a work experience and environment for all, that they should not run or hide from their legacy of contributions to an organization, even if their organization didn't have the courage to stand by them, and they should not hang their head in shame for that, right? Um, I was at an event, and I cannot remember the gentleman's name, but I loved what he said. He said, "Yes, I played in DEI, And he said, I played in determination, excellence, and integrity. And I think that that just really, that just set the tone for um, where he entered, right? And how can you respond to that? So I think people should just embrace the many look, people that were leading DE&I efforts, they had P&Ls. Many of them had P&Ls, many of them had metrics, many of them had crisis management, all of the skills that are still valuable today. So I think people going back to sort of the first two questions that we answered, people just need to take a skill set and frankly use AI to help them come up with their script and play with it and feel what feels right to them because everyone's got their own story and their DEI journey.
Absolutely. Just to over communicate in this sphere, what does P&L mean?
Oh, profit and loss statement. So you're responsible for some financial obligations and operating budget.
Absolutely. Just want to
Mhm.
over communicate that. Okay, the questions are still streaming in. I'm going to go back a while. Let's see. Good evening. How do I research a good recruiter if I received an email from them first before I call them back?
Good question. I mean, generally, they should, a good recruiter will introduce themselves. They'll provide you with the name of their firm, and they will actually provide you with their website, a link to their website. So you should be able to look and quickly see if they're a legitimate firm. A legitimate firm will generally have a list of either past placements or they'll at least have a quick sampling of the types of clients they work with. So you can, from there, you should be able to trust that they are at least semi-legit. I will say that I myself get a lot of calls from um, firms that are more like placement firms that are doing, telemarketing. We have jobs, making phone calls for Amazon, or we have jobs making phone calls for dental offices or whatever. And though that's not what you want to necessarily be dealing with. I mean, maybe you do, but I'm saying for executive search, you can generally, if they reach out to you via LinkedIn, you can usually respond and at least trust that they should be a legitimate recruiter.
Okay, fantastic. Let's see. I'm still scrolling. For those who are open to relocating, are there specific areas of the country or the world we should look into? Anyone? Are there hotspots?
Uh,
I think it varies by industry and like what you're looking to do. It's hard to answer like specifically like, oh, move to Iowa. If you're not into farming, like I don't know that that makes sense for you, but I think it'll really depend on what you're looking to be doing, and then doing research to figure out where that sector is growing in a particular state or city.
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, I can just say anecdotally, we've seen growth in Nashville, Denver, Colorado, Minneapolis, Minnesota,
Very cold.
um, some Austin, Texas, Dallas, Texas, and West Palm Beach, Florida.
Interesting. Okay. And are those just across sectors or any particular sectors that tied to
It,
this? Denielle?
it's a mix of sectors, but healthcare
Okay,
probably in all of those places.
very good. Another question. You all have shared a lot of insights here. Would love to know what is a conventional bit of career advice you think is wrong or overrated for the current market? Hmm.
I can take that. And it actually reminds me of a question that someone asked about burnout and struggling to find the motivation to apply consistently to jobs. So I want people to consider the possibility of applying to fewer jobs. sometimes you might be getting rejected from jobs because you're actually not applying to the appropriate jobs. Sometimes your job isn't ready yet. Sally is still sitting in your job, but her mother is about to have surgery next week and it's not going to go well. And Sally has to move to Ohio. So now that job is open and that's your job, right? But your job may not be ready yet. And so if if you I would like people to consider a strategy can be to be more picky and selective about the jobs you apply for because you're saying to yourself, I feel like a best match for this job, and so I'm going to apply for this job. Now, of course, there are practical realities. Then what does that mean for how I have to live? So if you choose that strategy, then you're saying I may have to make other choices in order for me to be more picky about the jobs that I apply for. But I just did a job search last year, and I did this because I felt like, um, well, I know how to write a cover letter that can tell the story that can sell. And I want to sell to something that I feel like I'm a match to, right? Like I'm just not going to apply for like 80 jobs. And I ended up really applying for maybe 4 or 5 jobs, maybe total. And I got one, you know? But that just comes from, it's not just luck or confidence. It's, do I really match this job and that's why I'm applying? Or is it that I need to do 10 jobs this week? So I think that that can be a bit of advice that's like kind of counter to the general narrative.
Got it. So instead of spamming 1,000 jobs, tailor it, curate it, truncate your list, and be more surgical. That's what you would say. Denielle?
I just I just noted that timing is also key. And be realistic about the timing. Like right now, between now and the end of the year, there's not much that's going to happen. There may be, as you said, the few exceptions or things that break through, but I would hate for people to put a lot of effort into applying right now when they're not going to get any feedback. Things are going to be very slow and things won't pick back up until the end of the year. So if you're in a fragile state, if you're feeling a little bit down, then this may be the time to pause. By contrast, there were people who were pausing in September or August and September, and I was saying to them, you basically that's the window when you needed to be applying, August, September, October, because November and December are pretty much dead. So just also be mindful of the calendar and the cyclical nature of work.
Very good point. Another question here is, should the person look for a new job first before they pivot? What about the saying, the grass is not always greener on the other side? Thoughts? So I guess
I hear my grandmother in my head, keep your job.
right.
Keep your
The
job.
best time to look for a job is when you have a job, as they say, right?
What? No, keep your job.
Mhm.
Keep your job. Build your pivot, save your coins,
Right.
then move.
All right.
So, yeah, I would agree with that.
Did you want to add anything else, Tamar?
Just that, yes, it's always easier to look for a job when you have a job because you don't have that added stress of how you're going to pay your bills. But I do think that if you're going to make a pivot, consistent with everything we've been saying throughout this call, is that you have to do the research where you're going, research, where industry is going, research trends, research new certifications, new updates to the language, the jargon, the skill set, that kind of thing. So if you're making a pivot, especially to a completely new area, researching the people that are succeeding in that space. What do they look like? Look at their LinkedIn pages. Are there trends that all of the practitioners in this space, you can find common denominators? Are they going to a specific school? Are they going to a specific certification program? Are they going to specific conferences? And then make that part of the bubble that I've been talking about, right? So that you are part of that ecosystem so that you're hearing about it and can then make that pivot and sound confident when you're talking to people in that space.
Okay, I'm going to try to squeeze out a few more questions before we hit 8:15. When I cannot submit a cover letter, what can or should I do to get a recruiter's attention, especially since I know very few people in the new desired field?
I would say, I'll jump in here. I definitely believe in the bubble. I do think that if you don't know people, then go find people that are in that space doing that work, and try to develop relationships. So if you can't submit a cover letter, but it's a tech company, a lot of them offer referrals. So finding people on LinkedIn, working at those companies, especially if they're in that department or something like that, would be helpful because they have a incentive, a financial incentive from the company to help bring in new talent and apply for jobs and stuff like that. So if you can't submit a cover letter, finding a way to build a relationship where you're trying to apply, through contacts, through relationships, through LinkedIn, through your network, so that you can get the story out. And then ask AI, how do I insert more of my story into my resume, without making it too long? Even government's moving away from long resumes. Now the federal government only accepts a 2-page resume, whereas before it could have been 22 pages. They didn't care. So finding ways to tweak the work that you have done and the experience that you have to be able to demonstrate your skills, that you can't put in a resume and in a cover letter. I'm sorry.
Okay. Did anybody else want to join in on that question? The question was about cover letters. When you can't submit a cover letter, how do you get a recruiter's attention, especially if you're new to the field? If there's nothing else to add, then I can pivot. Okay. For people in comms, communications, especially government contractors, any advice on pivoting and coming to terms that there may not be roles available in the future?
Yeah.
I think you have to count yourself in versus out. So much of this is really a mind game. And it is true, there are hundreds of thousands of Black women who are not employed. DEI is shrinking. One opening will get 150 applicants within a day. But you have to keep going and saying to yourself, they are going to pick someone, and I am going to be the person that they pick. Because if you don't have that supreme belief in yourself to help keep you going, you will lose steam, and then you'll find yourself not being chosen because you're not choosing yourself. I'm not saying that it's your fault, but I'm saying that as much as you can, keep yourself going, take breaks, take breaks like Denielle is saying, take care of yourself, find those safe spaces to talk to people. But you have to believe, I am going to make this pivot. I am going to get hired eventually. And it's that belief to help keep you going. And so there's I cannot think of it now, but there's a book, and there's been research about how positive thoughts literally can change the chemistry in your body. I mean, if you get angry and then your blood pressure rises, right? We have a doctor on the line, then that means that positive thoughts can have positive outcomes. And so I would say, do not dismiss that being a very important tool of your search.
Denielle, did you have something to add?
I saw one of the questions that I thought was a really good one about compensation and salary. So I just wanted to jump to that because I know we're running short on time.
This will be our last one. Yes, but it's very, very important. Thank you, Denielle.
Yeah, two critical things. One, it's generally illegal for someone to ask you what your compensation is or what your salary currently is. So no real recruiter would ask you that. However, will say to you something like, the current range for this role is, 100 to $200,000 a year. Does that meet your expectations? And then you can say, well, no, I'm expecting X more, or whatever the case may be. But the point is, this salary transparency, compensation transparency laws are in place. And you've probably noticed in the past 3 years, more and more postings actually do list the salary ranges for the work. The goal is people should be paid what the role demands, as opposed to being benchmarked off of where they currently are. And the reason for that is women and people of color traditionally have been underpaid, and it perpetuates itself because every time you move to a new job, people are only giving you that much more than what you were previously making, as opposed to truly paying you what the role requires and demands. So I just encourage people to always be knowledgeable about that. And again, use these AI tools. You can get some pretty good compensation analysis based on AI tools. 990s for any nonprofits are available, free and available online. So you can see what the top 5 individuals within the organization are making. So you can benchmark salary and, use your network to be able to understand what compensation is. Don't be shy to ask. Don't be afraid to ask.
What's a 990, Danielle? Just spell that out for us.
990 is the tax form that any nonprofit or 501(c)(3) has to file.
Okay.
And usually on about the fifth or sixth page, it has the salaries of the top 5 um, um, employees, the highest paid employees within the organization, and you can glean from there where your salary may fall.
And Danielle, before I turn it back over to Nashley and close out, there's a repeat question that I think you answered. Maybe the person came on later. The question was, how does one get a recruiter? And you explained that the recruiters are hired, the companies are hired by the institution, the corporation, the hospital that's seeking a C-suite executive or a person. However, you mentioned that there's a portal that a person might want to upload their resume to on the site of a DSG. Is that correct?
So like on our website, you can go onto dsgco.com, and we have a talent portal. You can load your resume into that talent portal. And many of the other top search firms also have talent portals. And again, you can do a chat GPT inquiry and say, give me a list of the top 40 search firms in whatever your specific area is, and then get your resume to those people.
Fantastic. Ladies, you've given an invaluable amount of advice and wise guidance and information. I can't thank you enough. Thank you for all of you on the chat, sending in these great questions. I think Nashley will guide us as to what we do next with the questions that weren't answered. Thank you everyone for their time and attention. And of course, thank you, my sisters in Haitian Ladies Network, for always holding space, always holding each other up and providing a forum for us to get much needed information and support. I say thank you again. Happy holidays and God bless everyone. And I'll turn it back over to Nashley Harrigan.
Thank you so much, Karen.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us and taking the time to actually come to this webinar. I hope you guys leave with practical strategies and next steps on how to guide yourself through your next chapter in your career. We want to say thank you to our panelists, Denielle, Theola, and Tamar, and to our amazing moderator, Karen, who always, always, always says yes to us. You guys provided such insight. I was taking notes. I think everyone else is taking notes. We will be sharing this live recording in the next couple of days, and I will share the rest of the questions with the ladies, and if they answer back, and I will share it with you guys as well with the live recording. I also want to like to introduce my board member and co-founder, Nadine.
Thanks, everyone. And yes, again, I was taking notes as well when I was supposed to be working behind the scene on monitoring the Q&A. We won't keep you long, so we want to wish you all a happy holiday. We have two important things. One, there is a survey. The way that we engage you and serve you is to hear from you. So we ask that you please just take 2 minutes and complete the survey and give us your feedback. That's going to be seen in the chat and in the Q&A. We'll share it with you all, and then we'll also send it out along with the recording. And two, as we noted in the beginning, and Ashley introduced Haitian Ladies Network, we are a nonprofit operating and based in the US to serve Haitian women and girls globally. And we do this because we truly believe in the work that we all get to do to serve you. And we do this with the generosity sponsors and donors and our supporters. And so we ask that you also take a few minutes to fill out the survey and make a contribution. Our donate link will be shared as well. And we welcome contributions of all levels in all dollar amounts. Um, and it is tax deductible. So as soon as you make a contribution, you will get the confirmation that your contribution has been received. And we use these funds to bring programming free of charge for all of us to empower us, to equip us to reach the goals that we have set for ourselves. So again, we're Haitian Ladies Network. Continue to engage and follow us on all our social media platforms, as well as joining our mailing list. So we are thanking you for taking the survey, and we're also thanking you for being generous in this time of need for many nonprofits. We don't take it lightly, and we are good steward of all funds that are received. So thank you and good night, everyone.
Thank you to our panelists. Thank you, Tamara, Danielle, Thiola. Excellent, excellent advice.
Happy
Thank you,
holidays.
ladies. Happy holidays. Happy holidays, everyone.
Holidays. Thank you.
Thanks all.